You've heard it before. Maybe you've even said it. Men just want one thing, right? Wrong, wrong. There's actually several things that men are much more important to men than just hooking up or sex or anything like that. In fact, the act of sex is actually much deeper, and it means something much deeper to a man than just the physical act itself. Doesn't even matter if that's all he's looking for. It means something deeper. And we'll talk about that and how to use the different forms of things that are important to men in order to connect with him in a much deeper way and connect with his heart. Okay, so hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the 7 things that are more important to men than just sex. So thing number 1 is they want to feel proud of themselves. And so they want to feel like they have, so in terms of you and him, he wants to feel like he can show you off, like he has something amazing in his life, like he can take you to his friends and his family and be like, hey, look at this amazing, beautiful, awesome woman that I have. You know, aren't I so lucky to have her? You know, isn't she such a blessing in my life? Aren't I proud, right? He wants to feel like he's proud, like he's done a great job, like he can show you off to his friends and his family that he's desired by a high quality woman, and that he has a good catch in his life, and that he found a woman that he can be proud of and who is standing by his side. And so most men want women who he perceives to be slightly out of his league. That's what he wants, is he wants somebody that's a little bit better than him. And if you want more control of your dating life, my suggestion is that you find a guy who's a little bit more into you than you are into him, because that'll give you a lot more control if that's something that you want. If he doesn't ever feel like he can have you because you're way too out of his league or whatever, that can always be a problem. And if he feels like he's actually ashamed of you or embarrassed of you, or can't really have you around, that's also a problem as well, because he wants to feel proud, right? And I'm sure you probably want to feel proud as well, which is, it's an emotional need we all have, right? We want to feel proud. And so yeah, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. All right. So number two thing that he wants more than just the hooking up, the chicka chicka wow wow, the baka baka bam bam, more than that. What does he want? He wants to know that he is making the right choice. And so more and more boys are growing up in broken homes where their parents are fighting, their siblings are getting into marriages that are ending into huge disasters. They're getting divorced. People are losing tons and tons of money. They're having just nasty, horrible, disgusting fight-driven breakups and stuff like that. They watch men in their lives being used by women, getting hurt by women, losing large amounts of money to women in divorces and things like that. And that's not to say that that's not happening to women as well by men. It's very, very common on both sides, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people, both men and women, aren't getting into relationships anymore, is because they don't want to get hurt, right? And they see all these people getting hurt and getting abused and being taken advantage of and all that kind of stuff. And so they don't want to be in that situation. Men want to know that they're doing the right thing, that they're with the right person, that they're making the right decision. And a lot of them would rather be single than just hook up, rather than just commit themselves to, whoever they're with, and it end up turning into a disaster. And so that's something, he wants to know that he's making the right choice. He wants to know that he's making the right choice with you. And part of that you can do things about, right? Which I talk about in a lot of my programs around the whole concept of alignment and partnership and all that kind of stuff, making sure that you're with somebody that you're aligned with, right? I got a whole bunch of messages recently from women asking about these different situations, and I see them in our community all the time. And they're with some guy, and they know it's the wrong situation. They know that the guy's not good for them, but they feel it for the guy, right? And so they're with them, even though they know everything about it is wrong, right? And a lot of guys, a lot of women, and a lot of guys look at that now, and they're like, hey, should I do this or should I not? And if it's not right, a lot of guys will say no. Some guys will just, they're love drunk and they'll do whatever, right? Just like a lot of women will. So anyway, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is they want, and this is one that I hear a lot and a lot of women say, and it's they want to be respected, right? Men will fight and die to be respected. Some of the biggest wars in the world, some of the biggest, most epic wars that have been fought in the world have been fought over the idea of respect. So what is respect? What are we even talking about when we talk about respect? How is this, in as far as like being with a man, how do you connect with a man in this way? So I'm just going to give, because respect's kind of an abstract concept. And so I'm going to give some other words for respect that mean very, very similar things. So one is it's being highly valued, right? A lot of times we'll replace respect with valued, right? He wants to be valued. He wants to be respected. He wants to be looked up to. He wants to be admired. He wants to be appreciated. These are all similar words about respect, right? Respect is like holding somebody in a high regard. Understood, he wants to be understood. He wants to be taken into consideration. He wants to be needed. He wants to be desired, right? These are all things that are similar to the word respect. And so he wants to feel like he's important to you, right? He's important to you, and he's important to other people. And he wants to feel like his opinions, his presence, his time, his resources, and his effort, all of these things are important or valued or respected, right? These are things that he wants. He wants to feel that way. That's why I talk a lot about like appreciating a man. And you don't want to go overboard with anything, right? There's always a middle ground. And I always, one of the big challenges is that, and we do it with everything. I do it all the time, is taking things to extremes, right? Especially when you're new to something and you're over on one side, and then you jump over and back and forth, and you're like jumping back and forth to these different sides, when the magic almost all the time is in the middle. And so you don't want to be like too overly appreciating a man all the time, right? It's weird, right? And it starts making him think, oh, she's got an agenda. But at the same time, you don't want to totally, ignore him and diss him and hurt him or any of that kind of stuff, because that does work, but it only works with guys who have serious self-esteem issues. And you probably don't want that. I hope you don't want that. So number 4 is to be passionately in love. And so most men won't say this, but ultimately what most men want at their very core is to be madly in love with someone who's madly in love with them. That's probably a dream of yours as well, right? And they've done studies on men who have cheated in their marriages, and they found that the overwhelming majority of them said that the number one reason why they cheated was because of a lack of passion in the relationship. And so how do you take this and use it with a man to connect with a man? Well, there's a whole bunch of different things, right? One is that if there's nothing there, if there's no like emotional attraction there, there's not a whole lot that you can do, right? Attraction isn't a choice. He doesn't decide it. You can't force it, right? You can't convince a man to be passionately in love with you, any of that kind of stuff. A lot of the things that I hear from women is they'll say, oh, I'm in love with this guy or my ex or, whatever, right? And I'll be like, and they'll talk about this horrible situation. And I'm like, well, why are you trying to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you? And they're like, because I love him. And it's like, well, how does he feel about you though? Right? Because how you feel about him is completely irrelevant. Think about it this way. If a guy is totally in love with you and you don't really like him that much, what can he do to convince you to be in a relationship with him and to get physically intimate with him and all that kind of stuff? If you're like most women, probably not much, right? And it's the same on the other side as well. The only difference is that men will get physically intimate with women that they don't feel any emotional attraction for, because it makes them feel wanted, it makes them feel desired, it makes them feel important. All those things that we were talking about before around why men will do this. So anyway, regardless of all that, assuming that you do initially at least have some passion in your relationship, one of the things that a mentor of mine has told me multiple times is what he says is if you do the things in the middle of a relationship that you did at the beginning of the relationship, there won't be an end to the relationship. That's what he used to say. And so what happens a lot of times is people in dating or in relationships, they get really comfortable with each other. And then next thing you know, they aren't doing the same things. They aren't dating each other anymore. They're letting themselves go. They're not connecting with each other in the same way. And so things can fall apart in that way a lot of the time, right? And it may not be totally true, but the point is there, right? Like it may not always be that kind of a scenario, like especially if you like fall head over heels in love with some guy that's not really into you, that can be a problem. But so anyway, moving on to number five is he wants to feel like he's different and he's special to you than other men. So men want to feel unique and special and different than all the other men that you've dated. And you probably want men to feel this way about you as well, right? It's a very common thing. And so there's a bunch of things that women sometimes do that kind of destroy this. And one of them is telling a man that you like some other man more than him, or like having celebrity crushes, which aren't a big deal because it's like kind of this fantasy thing or whatever. And a lot of guys get that, but it's still a little weird. Or telling him that someone else is the love of your life, or, telling him that you slept with somebody faster than you slept with him. Basically what you're telling him is that you were really attracted to some other guy more than him. And I'm not saying, because I know that there's going to be some women in the chat that are like, well, men have said this to me before, right? And I totally get that, right? I'm not justifying their behavior in any way. All I'm saying is it's not good, right? Like you don't want to do things to men because men have done things to you before. You want to connect to men in a way that works, and you want to avoid connecting with men in a way that doesn't work. And so you want him to feel unique and special and different than all the other men. He wants to be valued by you. Someone who's like I talked about before, he wants to feel like you are just a little bit out of his league, right? Because if, let's say you go down the street and there's like a homeless person on the street and he's like, hey, chica, you're so hot, right? And you're like, thanks, homeless man, and you like walk by or whatever. But if, some guy that you're really attracted to, that you really value really highly, let's just go with George Clooney, because I know a lot of women swoon over him. And let's say George Clooney or Brad Pitt or somebody you find it really attractive and you think is really awesome comes over and says that you're really attractive and hot, right? That's a different story. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, he said I'm amazing and he likes me, all right. But you don't do the same thing with the homeless person. Why? Because you value one person a lot more than you value the other person. And when you value somebody more, you take whatever they say as more important. And that's why you want him to feel like you're just a little bit out of his league, just a little bit out of his league. So number 6 is loyalty. Good old loyalty, right? Having someone's back, being faithful to them, not straying or cheating emotionally or physically. Loyalty is way more important to men than sex. I will tell you that. Why? Because it makes them feel like they're enough. It makes them feel like they're enough. It's actually one of the same things that men get out of sex, right? Men feel like they're enough for somebody. They feel like they're desired. Something that you probably get out of it as well, right? It's not just the physical, the act. Just the physical act for anybody is kind of, without the emotion there, is like, why am I doing this, right? Is it really worth it? You kind of feel cheap and gross afterwards. You're like, right? Everybody feels that way. Everybody does. And so there's almost always an emotion that gets tied to it, or multiple emotions that get tied to it in different situations. So how do you connect with loyalty, right? So loyalty is proven during the hard times. It's not proven during the easy times, just like trust. Loyalty is proven during the hard times. Even though if you're disloyal during the easy times, that's just as bad as being disloyal during the hard times. But if you really want a man to trust you and see that you're loyal and feel like like you guys are really together in this, you need to take his back, take his side, be with him when it's really, really difficult. That's what you want to do. So number seven is to feel like he matters. He wants to feel like he matters. He wants to feel important, like he matters. So men want to feel like their lives, like their existence in the world is important, like it matters. They want to feel like they belong somewhere, like they're doing something and being a part of this world, like they left a mark on this world, like they weren't just here, but they actually impacted people's lives in an overwhelmingly positive way. That's what men want to feel. And you can actually connect with a man and help him kind of see that and how that all kind of fits together. And then if you do that and you connect with him in that way, he will uniquely see you as somebody who not only understands him and gets him and appreciates him, but is also linked to that emotional feeling of him feeling like he matters, like he's important, like his existence, his existential existence in this world is proven to be true and good and healthy and everything great. And I'm going to go over the 7 things and then I'm going to jump into the comments. So number 1 is to be proud of themselves. Number 2, to know that they're making the right choices. Number 3 is to be respected. Number 4 is to be passionately in love. Number 5 is to be special and different to you. He wants to be different to you, girl. Number 6 is loyalty. Number 7 is to feel like he actually matters in this world.